would you guess that maybe part of the reason your dad was so gregarious is that he was lit up?
Part of it, but he was a womanizer.
I'm just...
Yeah. He was stalking out new territory. I didn't know that at the time, but my mother told me about it later. That's the reason we moved from one town to the other, because somebody's husband was after him, so he changed places. So my dad was never, he was just angry with me most of the time. Never said much to me except hit me a lot. And I'm going to finish the thing with my dad, was that he used to hit me with a belt, get me in my room, and then he'd be drunk a little, you know, a little drunk, a lot of drunk, I don't know which. And he would start swinging the belt in my room. He'd stand in front of the door and start swinging the belt. And I was probably junior high, yeah. Started when I was in about the 5th and 6th grade. And he'd come home and I didn't get the lawn mowed. Bam, 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 you know, or whatever. You know, whatever he could find that he didn't like, he would hit me with the belt. And then he'd see so tipsy that he'd get the belt buckle first going around and hit me with the buckle a lot. I've got stitches in the back where I had to go get stitches from it, you know. But my dad was short. My dad was light. I was short, always the shortest kid in school, but I was not light. I was always well built. And when I got to be close to his height, probably this would have been 8th grade, probably between 8th and 9th, 8th or 8th and 9th, I was equal his weight. I wasn't as tall, but now I equaled him in weight. And he got me in there, and he swung that belt, buckle first, which gave me something to grab on, and I grabbed it, defensively, you know, thinking. And I took the belt, and I said, "It's my turn." And he just looked at me, white as a sheet, went out the door, and never, ever again tried to beat me, ever. He knew that he was at the end, because he was going to get beat if he came in there.
Game's over.
Yeah, game's over now. And he never had a good word to say before or after that, but never had a word to say me in discipline after that ever, you know. He helped me buy cars. I paid for them, but he had a crummy sense of timing. When I wanted a car for my first car in 9th grade, I was looking forward to having a car. He bought me a new bicycle. And it was not cool in those days, as it was later, to ride a bicycle to school. Socially, you know, you just didn't do that. So here I am riding my new bicycle to school because it's the only way I could get there. So that was cool. And then later I wanted a car, and he went out and bought a car that didn't run.
Well, let's talk about cars.
Okay.
And high school and conversion stories on the next tape. But
okay.
Finish this tape telling me positive personal memories, things you did with your mother.
Okay.
There's 6 minutes on
here. Mom never disciplined me. She just said, "I love you," all the time. She would tell me things I shouldn't do, of course, but she never gave me a tough time about it. I remember Mother hitting me. The only time she ever hit me when I called the only black man I ever saw in our town in Montebello. I called him a nigger, and I got hit across the face so hard. And the only time your mother only ever hits you, I remember that. That's the only time before or after, because we were supposed to respect all people. And Mom taught us that, not my dad, but so I learned to respect. But Mom took us lots of places. Mom was the one that took us to the plunge to go swimming, and she took us to when we were little in that, to the fountain. They had a big fountain in the local park, and she took us there often. And she would go with some of her sisters and their kids, Loretta. Loretta was a month younger than I was, and I knew her real well, and until she got a little older and girly, womanly things. And my sister become more woman. My sister started womanly things, puberty probably about 2 years before most girls did in those days. And so she was an 11th grader with all the equipment of a freshman in high school. And so she started dating when she was 11 with kids in high school. When she got to high school, she was tired of all that, so she started dating guys in college or out of college. She didn't date anybody that was really educated. She dated service people, guys in the service, stuff like that. And they came around often, which gave me some idea later once I got older why, you know.
And so back to your mom.
My mom was always there. She's a great, great cook, the best cook I've ever been around. Made great, great, not lima beans, but navy beans, which I loved, and cherry pies, which I loved. And I had a great, great close relationship with her. Meaning love, really close love relationship.
Do you have any stories? Can you give me any specific stories?
No, there really wasn't much stories. My mother was a woman that always willing to help the downtrodden. And so we inevitably, within a year, we would always have somebody living with us who had been beat up by her husband. Loretta's mother lived with us often because she got beat up by her alcoholic husband. And so my mom was always helping people like that. And we had people like Zita, I didn't know from Adam, who was living with us. She had a little daughter. She didn't have any place, so she lived with us for a while. Who knows, you know. But it was not, my mother's the one that put me into kindergarten into first grade, because she was going to work the extra hours because she wasn't going to put me in the wrong school, you know, bad school. But I never had any real activities a lot with my mother. Just a lot of love and a lot of support. And the only thing I ever remember for sure that came, the theme that went through my mother all the time was, you're going to college. Because I could have gone to college. She was trying to go to the University of Minnesota. She was working one summer to make money to go. She was apparently pretty smart in high school, and she graduated a year earlier in age. She wanted to go to the University of Minnesota and never made enough money and stuff, and their family moved out here before she could. And some of her relatives went to school at Garfield High School, and some of those others. You remember the movie about Garfield High School and the math teacher that went to teach anyway. I just really didn't have a lot of activities with my mother. I didn't do a lot of things with my mother. She always listened, and she always gave me advice all the time.
Did she help you with your homework?
No.
Did she
I didn't do my homework.
make anything for you? Clothes? Food?
She made clothes. Clothes and clothes and clothes. Until I got into high school, when every August approximately, she would take us down to a store which she called the Jews store, which is in East Los Angeles on Belvedere, and on Whittier Boulevard. And she'd take us around and say, now, do you want a shirt of that? What do you want with this? How about this, this, this? And my sister would, I want blouses and dresses and stuff. And for a week she started sewing, and we had brand new clothes of our choosing. Sometimes they were wrong choices. I had some of the wildest shirts you ever saw.
So she'd take you downtown to clothing shopping just to
Not
shop
clothing
for
shopping.
styles.
Not clothing shopping.
No, but you'd go.
We didn't have anything.
styles.
I didn't look for style. I'm in junior high.
What did you look for?
The material.
Fabric? Oh,
The material. That was pretty. And she wouldn't give us to look at material that she couldn't make it, and it was improper to make it out of. Like you didn't have jeans to wear that, you know.
So she'd go to the fabric store,
With you.
and you could pick out fabrics with her.
Yeah, and my sister did too. And then we'd come home, and she'd be up 10, 11, midnight, sometimes closer it got to school starting. She'd be up later and later, and we always had our school clothes ready to go, brand new sets of school clothes.
There were a few years in there when she made my school clothes.
Yeah, and you had what kind of reactions to them, do you remember?
They were fine. I mean, they matched what the other kids were wearing. And when I was in 6th grade, Ocean Pacific OP was all the rage, and chords. And she made me chords in the same way, and we used to joke with the other kids that they had OPs and I had GMs.
GMs, huh?
But I don't remember feeling put down upon for that.
No. Well, you were, as you got older, it was probably more of a factor, but.
No, it was still plenty of peer pressure in 6th grade. But
What would GM stand for?
grandma.
Oh, I thought maybe you'd have DBs.
No.
Is that right? I didn't know that story.
Yeah.
So mother was just always supportive, and I always knew I was going to college because I was going to fulfill her dream. And she always told me how wonderful it was. She went to my master's degree graduation, not to my graduation, but to a ceremony we had called, what was the name of that ceremony? Master's degree? PhD. There was a PhD called Putting Hubby Through. Yeah. And she went to that, and she didn't talk to me much about getting all these other degrees, but Beverly told me that she used to just crow about the fact that she had a son with a doctorate degree. You know.
Oh, yeah.